Hi, RPD here. It's been a long time since my last video, and since then I have moved back to Spain. I have a new microphone, hopefully this is way better than the one that I used before, and I have a new setup, and I would like to make some tutorials, some videos explaining things about pen spinning in general, and also about two pen one hand in particular. And for this first video, my intention is to explain the basics about what I have found during these years of two pen one hand mode choice, and also the different kinds of movements that we can find within this subtype of pen spinning. My intention with these tutorials is to get this information out there. I believe that if I just explain how the tricks are found and how the tricks are created, and also just the tricks that I have already found, right? Some regular trick tutorials, then there's going to be someone somewhere that's going to be very good at this and that will be able to copy my combos in no time, and that he will make incredible tricks in no time. The first point that I want to discuss is mode choice. So in pen spinning, there has been this correlation between modding improvements and pen spinning improvements. So for example, when power tricks were developed, there were also new modes like the Buster CYL and Emboss modes, right? They were heavier, longer, and thicker. And one thing went thanks to the other. If we didn't have these mods, then it would be very difficult to have the tricks that Super Wheat and Spinner Pim did. So I think that for two pen one hand is going to be the same. We shouldn't take like regular pen spinning modes for granted as the most optimal thing to use. We should find whatever works for us and whatever makes our tricks more consistent. So I don't have the answer. Also, the answer is going to depend on each spinner. But there's 2 points in which both Chris Wea and I agree. And I think that we can start the discussion from here. So the first thing is to progressively increase the length and weight of the modes that you use. So for example, this is just a regular pen spinning mode. This is a tool grip of year. And then this is what I used in 2020. This is my Factis version 1. And this is my Factis version 2, the one that I used in 2022. I also want to make a tutorial for this at some point. But you can see that it's way longer. Let me check the length, just so you know. Just the grip of year is 22 centimeters. My version 1 is 25. And my version 2 is 28.5. And for the weight, this one is 18.5 grams, 19.58, 26.9, almost 27 grams. So as I said, at some point I want to make a tutorial for this mod, but even if you make this, at the beginning for me it was unthinkable to spin this mod and make it look good. Right now I am very consistent in making tricks with this mod, right? I can get them very consistently, but at the beginning, if I spun something as heavy and as long as this, it would just look kind of sluggish and not very graceful. Some would argue that's still the same right now, but anyway, the thing is that I increased progressively the length and weight of the mods, and Chris Wea did the same. Chris Wea started with my Factis version 1, and then he made it a bit longer and also heavier with time. And I feel like that's something very important. Just as you progress, then you make the modes longer and heavier, and you should feel how they get more stable, and like as you make them with like more momentum on the grips and bigger, right? But I think that if you make that change too soon, just your muscle memory is not going to adapt very well. You can see that it's just a very different tool from a regular mod, and let's not even compare this to a Comsa, right? It makes no sense. So yeah, I think that this progressive increase is very important. And then the second point is to use rubber bodies. I am biased because I just use rubber bodies all the time, right? These are my regular pen spinning, like one pen, one hand mods, and all of them have rubber bodies. But for example, Chris Wea doesn't use this kind of mods in regular pen spinning, and still he uses Factis mods for two pen one hand. So I think that's something that, even though I am biased, is going to help a lot. There's many tricks in which the two pens interact, and if there's no friction, like no texture between the bodies, then it's going to be very hard to maintain control of the trick, right? yeah, I think that any kind of rubber body is going to be very helpful. So for example, Factis is the best for me, but here I have Tool. As I said, these are just regular one pen, one hand mods, and I would like to use them in the tutorials because I can show people that you can also do these tricks with regular mods. It's just more efficient to use bigger and longer mods, but you can still use whatever you have at home. I think that the Tool is also going to work. Stalogy is also going to be a good pen for making two pen, one hand mods. Anything like this I think is going to be useful pen modding. And also, just as an update, this is the Odyssey mod. There's also a tutorial on my channel, and I don't use this anymore. First of all, the body has quite an aggressive grip. I don't need that much grip on the pen. I think that Factis is enough. There's some tricks that I can only use this mod, or otherwise I can't get it. For example, things in which I am kind of doing like devil stick kind of things. If it's not these silicone bodies, then I cannot do it. But yeah, it's a bit too short and a bit too light for me right now. I should remod them, but it's just such a pain to make this mod that I don't want to remod it. So yeah, I'm not using it anymore. One of the factors in which two pen, one hand is very different from regular one pen, one hand is that in one pen, one hand, for example, when we write notation, right, we only care about where the pen is held. So here, this is 1, 2. It's between the index finger and middle finger. And we don't care if it's held like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. We can go from one position to the other relatively quickly and without much effort. In the case of two pen, one hand, going from this state to this state is not trivial at all. You can do it, it's not impossible, but the pens may collide and it's just not looking very smooth. So it's not that you cannot do it, it's just that they are like different slots. I called it chirality. If you have done chemistry, then you know what this is. But in chirality means that we have two states in which one is the mirrored version of the other, and they are not the same. So this is what I would call right-handed, because to go from the bottom pen to the top pen, we have to rotate with our right hand. And this is what I would call left-handed, because to go from the bottom pen to the top pen, we have to rotate with our left hand. In any case, this is just a naming convention, but let me give an example of how this works. So for example, there's a trick which I called Tangle. Tangle is this trick. Tangle is very interesting because it goes from right-handed to a left-handed state. So for example, if we are in this position, then we can do a tangle, right? And now we are in a different position. The important thing to know is that if we are in a left-handed state, then we cannot do a tangle. We can do another trick, a different trick, but it's not going to be the same, right? And for example, we could do this, and then from here we can do a tangle. You see, let me do it again. So we can do this trick, and then we can do a tangle. But yeah, you can see how this is crucial to understand two pen, one hand. Something which is very simple, but at the same time I think is very important, is what I call soft versus hard slots. So this just means how we are holding the pens in our hand. If the pen can move freely when the hand moves, then that's a soft slot. But if the pen is like stuck when we move our hand, then that's going to be a hard slot. So let me give an example. The trick that I showed before, Tangle, is going to be a soft slot in both pens. Both pens are moving freely as we do the trick. And then an example of a trick using one soft and one hard slot would be this one, right? This mod is held very firmly, while the other one is like held loosely. Last thing I would like to discuss is the movement classification, which is the different kinds of movement that we have in two pen, one hand. This is something that I think is very hard to do right now because we don't have that many tricks to work with. But this is something that has helped me create new tricks and also creating new combos, and I hope it helps way more people. I gave names to all of these movements. I think that having names helps having discussions. The first aspect is the number of pens which change slots. This would lead to three kinds of movement, either stalled, static, or simultaneous. Let's see, stalled would be none of the pens changing slots. Static would be something like this, in which one of the pens changes slots, and then simultaneous would be something like this, in which both pens change slots. And then there's like subcategories. So for example, within stalled, we have completely stalled, so no movement whatsoever. We would also have perpendicular movement, like this, and also parallel movement. So for example, 2 charges at the same time would be parallel movement. Also, something like this would be parallel movement. And also what I mentioned before of going from left to right-handed states would also be a parallel movement. Then within static tricks, I think there's either orbiting or non-orbiting, simplifying it a lot. So orbiting means that the moving pen goes around the static pen in some way. So for example, this trick or the trick that I did before, this one would be orbiting. And then non-orbiting would be something else, like for example, this. And within simultaneous, I think there's either paired or unpaired. So for example, this would be paired movement. Both pens are moving at the same time on the same slots. And then unpaired movement is something else. So for example, this or tangle would also be one example. The second aspect would be interactions or interference. I don't really know how to call it. We have either tricks in which the interaction between the pens is necessary to make the trick work, or we have tricks in which the interference between the pens is not necessary. So for example, in tangle, the interference between pens is necessary, but if we do 2 charges, then the pens may bump, but that's not kind of the intent of the trick. That's not necessary for the trick. That's just like me not being good at this trick. And then the third aspect are the visuals. So either synchronous or asynchronous. That means that, for example, this trick has synchronous visuals. This trick has synchronous visuals, but asynchronous would be something like this or like this. I think there's many different kinds of movements, but just to give some bare bones classification of the different kinds of tricks that we can make, I think that would be it. And yeah, thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, please comment, like, and subscribe. I know it's a cliche, but it really helps a lot since my channel got 1,000 subscribers. I have got a lot more views in my tutorials and in my just regular videos, and it would help a lot because I really want to make more videos, and if they don't reach more people, I don't gain money from this. Like I'm losing money for making these videos, right? I bought the microphone, I'm not getting anything, so if at least helps someone, that would be great. So yeah, if you like the video, please tell me. If you have any questions, please tell me as well. If you want to follow me on the socials, I am at RPDPS on any social media ever. I started TikTok recently. Not sure if I like it or not, but I started. So thank you for watching and see you next time.